So, this week in the Sacred Gathering, we're going to be looking at a couple of scriptures together that come out of the lectionary. For me, it's always interesting seeing how the lectionary, these kind of traditional um, collection of readings that are related to one another in some way, what they're looking for. It seems to me like these sections and some of the other readings are playing with this kind of old metaphor of the life of faith being one in which we walk, in which God's ways are a path in which we walk on or don't walk on. And so this path has some pretty different takes on it. One is going to talk about kind of righteousness, which is, of course, um, one of the favorite ways of talking in the Old Testament about walking along the right path. And then it gets this kind of oddball one of Jesus walking on water with Peter walking on water. And what are maybe some of the implications for reading that more metaphorically and reading walking on water as walking in righteousness or walking the path of God's ways? So let me just ask the questions, read these passages, and I'm looking forward to having this discussion with you all on Sunday. So here's our introductory questions. What is your process for making a major decision in life? What is God's role in this decision-making process? How do you balance your responsibility with discerning God's desires in decision-making? From Psalm 85. Let me hear what the God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace to his people, to his saints. Let them not turn back to folly. Surely his salvation is near to those who fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Steadfast love and faithfulness meet. Righteousness and peace kiss each other. Faithfulness springs up from the ground, and righteousness looks down from the sky. Yes, the Lord will give what is good, and our land will yield its increase. Righteousness will go before him and make his footsteps a way. So what does it mean in this passage when it talks about, let me hear what God the Lord will speak, for he'll speak to his people? What does it actually mean to listen to God? How does that actually work in real life? And why is it important? What is righteousness? It's a good church word, right? What is righteousness in your language, in normal people talk, not church talk, not theological terms? Why is righteousness desirable for us as a community, or even as a larger community like a nation? What is the relationship between listening to God and righteousness? And then from Matthew chapter 14, right then Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead to the other side of the lake, while he dismissed the crowds. When he sent them away, he went up onto a mountain by himself to pray. Evening came and he was alone. Meanwhile, the boat, fighting a strong headwind, was being battered by the waves and was already far away from land. Very early in the morning he came to his disciples, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost!" And they were so frightened they screamed. Just then Jesus spoke to them. "Be encouraged, it's me. Don't be afraid." Peter replied, "Lord, if it's you, order me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." Then Peter got out of the boat and was walking on the water toward Jesus. But then Peter saw the strong wind. He became frightened. As he began to sink, he shouted, "Lord, rescue me." Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him, saying, "You man of weak faith, why did you begin to have doubts?" When they got into the boat, the wind settled down. Then those in the boat worshipped Jesus and said, "You must be God's son." So this story has a long history of being read symbolically, as a metaphor for discipleship. Peter often exemplifies impulsive, rather than intentional and well-discerned behavior in the Gospels. Yet here he shares a particularly special moment with his Lord, the only other person, as far as we know, who's ever walked on water with Christ. So in what ways are our lives like these chaotic storms? What might the boat and our relative safety there represent to the life of faith? What might we learn from Jesus standing impossibly in the chaos of the storm itself? What might we learn from Peter and his desire to leave the safety of the boat to follow Christ? And what might we learn from Peter and his inability to do so on his own strength and faith? What do you think? Any parallels to your own life in what we're hearing in that story? Is Christ inviting you to step out of the boat in any aspect of your life? I'm looking forward to having this discussion with all of you on Sunday.